Portland, Oregon, December. A light rain was covering the second-story windows in a thin layer of mist. Elena Morris sat in her studio apartment, a cold cup of coffee in her hand. Her eyes glued to the screen where an email invitation to an exhibition had been opened. The subject line read, "Elena Morris, Lensing Loneliness, a personal retrospective." She should be proud. Not every photographer gets invited by a contemporary gallery in Portland to be the subject of a winter exhibition. Not everyone is what critics call an eye for the cracks no one sees. But today, Elena felt nothing. Not happy, not sad, not motivated to answer emails. The room around her was dark, but tidy. On the bookshelf were framed photographs. A Syrian child standing amid the rubble, her eyes wide as if piercing the lens. A homeless man in Chicago, holding his dog as his only possession. An old woman in a nursing home. Her face split in two by the light from the window. All of it without Elena. She was the one who looked. The one who passed by. The one who took pictures. And sometimes, she wasn't sure if she was living or just recording someone else's life in pictures. The phone vibrated. It was from Evan Salazar, her ex, a famous photo magazine editor in New York. She hadn't deleted the number, but it had been 4 years since she'd heard from him. "I heard you got a solo show. Congratulations. You're one of the sponsors. Can we talk?" Elena looked up, smiling. Evan was the same. No beating around the bush. She didn't answer. She put the phone down. That evening, she walked toward the Willamette River. The cold wind whipped at her face, but it didn't make her shoulders hunched. Elena was used to the cold, both inside and outside. She stopped in front of the old steel bridge, pulled her camera from her backpack. But instead of taking a picture, she turned the lens on herself, as an experiment. Pressed the shutter. The screen showed a photo, a woman standing in the blurred background of the city. Not smiling. Not acting. Eyes looking straight ahead. But her gaze was not fixed on anything. Elena laughed. Not sarcastically. But, so I'm still outside the frame, even though the camera is facing me. Pushpin in the bottom corner of the camera screen. The clock read 9:27 p.m. Elena stuffed the camera back into her backpack. She knew she would have to write an email about the exhibition tomorrow. But today, she just wanted to be alone in the cold. No one called her home. No one waited. And sometimes, she even forgot. She used to belong to a family. Monday, 9:02 a.m. Portland. Elena was making coffee when there was a knock on the door. She wasn't expecting anyone. But when she opened it, it was just the mailman, handing her a cream-colored envelope, no sender's name. No company label. She took it, thanked him, closed the door, and stood for a long time in front of the envelope. The handwriting was familiar. Very familiar. She took a box cutter and cut the edge of the envelope. A card fell out, along with a small piece of paper, folded in half. Leo and Jasmine, we cordially invite you to our wedding. Saturday, 2 weeks from now. At our old house, Eugene, Oregon. Your presence is the greatest gift. She wasn't surprised that Leo was getting married. She was surprised that she was invited. She sat down on the chair, unfolded the folded piece of paper. Elena, if you're holding this card, it means I had the courage to send it. I don't know if you'll read it, or just throw it away. But I want to say one thing. You're not the one standing outside the picture frame. It's just that the whole family didn't know to turn the camera towards you. This time, if you want, I'll stand behind the camera. And you can just stand there without taking any pictures. I know I was wrong. But if you come back, I'll explain more. I promise. Leo. Elena read it twice. Each word was not heavy, not mournful. But they were like small stones falling into a seemingly flat lake, causing ripples of memories to form. She leaned back in her chair, closed her eyes. Images flooded back, fragments, blurred, broken. A 17-year-old Elena, standing in the middle of the schoolyard, holding a disciplinary warning, instead of Leo. A silent meal after her father's death, Evelyn just looked at Sophie, asking, "Have you eaten enough?" A final family photo at the funeral, where Elena held the camera and her chair was empty. She opened her eyes. The coffee was cold. The wind blew through the window, shaking the curtains. And for the first time in years, she muttered a sentence, to whom she was not sure. Maybe, "It's time to stand in my own picture." That night, Elena booked a bus ticket to Eugene. Didn't tell anyone. Not sure if she would stay overnight. Just brought her camera, not to take pictures, but so that, if necessary, she could give it to Leo. For the first time in her life, her brother could see his sister in the lens, not from afar. Eugene, Oregon. Elena is 10 years old. Smile. 1, 2, 3. Her father's voice rang out from behind the camera as the three children stood in front of a white picket fence, arms awkwardly hugging each other. Sophie, only 7, smiled brightly, her lips still stained with milk. Leo, just started kindergarten, opened his mouth as wide as he could. Elena, hair tied up, red striped shirt, stood on the left, still holding a broom to sweep the leaves because her mother called her in mid-sentence. That photo was later printed large, framed and hung in the Tran family's living room. But there was one thing Elena would never forget. "I was cut in half." "Elena, why are you standing so crooked? You're making the photo look bad," her mother, Evelyn, said while looking at the developed photo. "I was sweeping the yard and you called me in." The 10-year-old girl replied softly, always making excuses. "Come on, be a big sister and set an example." The phrase "being an older sister means being an example" became something Elena heard all the time. When Sophie cried, Elena had to comfort her. When Leo broke a vase, Elena had to apologize for her. When the electricity went out, Elena was the one who looked for the flashlight. When the family took pictures, Elena was the one who held the camera or adjusted her sister's shirt. When she was 12 years old, her father gave her a small film camera. Not because she asked for it, but because he said, "You always pay attention to the good angle. Take the camera, let me take a picture with your mother and siblings." Elena thought it was a gift. Until, from then on, in every family photo, Elena was always the one holding the camera. And every time she looked back at the album, she was always absent. There was a very famous photo in the house, enlarged, framed in glass and hung right at the entrance. It was Sophie's 16th birthday. Everyone was there. Her parents were smiling brightly. Leo was wearing a red bow. Only Elena was missing. She had a slight fever that day and was lying in her room. Mom said, "Take a quick photo to make the weather better, and then take another photo with Elena." But there was no later. "Why didn't you wait for me?" Elena asked. "It costs money to take more photos and then develop them." "It's okay. We have a lot of photos already," her mother replied. Elena grew up like that. Present, but not appearing. Present, but not remembered. The last family photo she had was when she was 21 years old, at her father's funeral. Everyone was sitting on the bench. Elena stood behind the lens, like a machine. That night, when Leo sat crying because he missed his father, Elena walked into the room, intending to say something. But Sophie was there first. Hugging Leo, whispering, "Elena doesn't know how to comfort anyone. She's like a robot." Elena turned away, not knocking. She still held the bottle of warm milk she had mixed for Leo. Present. Portland. Elena opens her laptop, scrolls through her old photos folder. She keeps everything, even her childhood photos. She looks at each one, birthdays, Christmases, Thanksgivings. Each one is missing someone. And that person is always her. She doesn't know when she stopped feeling pain from that. But this morning, When she received the wedding invitation, the old feeling comes back. Not pain, but should I stand outside again? Elena closes her laptop. She pulls her old camera from the drawer, the one her father gave her. There's still film left undeveloped. She wonders, are there any photos of me in them? Portland. A small cafe on the banks of the Willamette River. Wednesday, 3:10 p.m. Elena walks into the cafe with her camera slung over her shoulder, her hair pulled back in a bun, and a folder from the gallery in her hand. At the table, there was a man in a charcoal turtleneck, stirring a cup of Americano. Evan Salazar, still calm, polite. Eyes still deep but not as sad as before. You're on time. Evan smiled, standing up. You still order Americano, no change. Elena sat down, her voice neither forced nor intimate. Because I still haven't found anything else bitter enough without being sad. Evan replied, jokingly, seriously. The two sat in silence for a while. Not awkward, but light. As if after so many years, both of them were tired enough to not need to be on guard anymore. Thank you for being the one behind the exhibition sponsorship, Elena said. I'm not behind. I'm beside. Always. Evan replied, his eyes still unchanged. But you didn't choose to stand with me, Elena said bluntly. Evan didn't deny it. He just sipped his coffee, then said, Elena. Back then, I thought if I was patient enough, you would stay. But I was wrong. Not because you didn't love me, but because you didn't know how to stay. Elena looked down at her hands. A choked-up feeling ran through her chest, but it didn't come out. I thought if I backed out first, I wouldn't hurt anyone. But I forgot, backing out is also a way to hurt, just more silently. Maybe we met at a time when I wasn't ready to be loved. Or not ready to believe that I was worthy of love. Evan added. Silence. Not out of embarrassment, but as our minds cleared out old memories. I've been all over the world. Met a lot of people, taken thousands of photos. But the only photo I didn't dare take was the one with the person I loved. Elena said softly. Evan smiled. Because I think, if I had that picture, I wouldn't be able to deny it anymore. That I was happy. Elena finished the sentence, looking out the window. A yellow leaf fell onto the table next to her. The wind outside blew gently. Not cold. Just enough for those who have lost each other to sit together, no need for promises. I haven't loved anyone else yet, Evan said, as if he was just reading a news story. I didn't ask. Elena replied, but her lips curled slightly. Evan put his hand on the table. Not touching her hand. Just said, this time, if you go somewhere, I won't keep you. But if you stay, I won't leave you out of the picture anymore. Elena looked at him. No answer. But she knew there was nothing to answer today. They left the bar at 4 o'clock. No hugs. Just greeted each other like two old friends who had never hated each other. On the way back, Elena opened her camera. She took a selfie, the first in years, with a clear smile. She named the file, No Rush. Portland, Saturday, 5:17 a.m. It wasn't even light yet. The dim yellow streetlights seemed to cover everything in a strange silence. Elena stepped out of the apartment, small backpack, compact suitcase, camera hanging from her neck. She didn't tell anyone. Didn't call Leo. Didn't text her mother. Didn't tell Sophie. No one knew she was on her way back to Eugene, except herself. 10 years. Since the day of her father's funeral. When she put down the camera after taking the last shot, then walked out the gate without looking back. 10 years. No letters. No New Year's Eve. No return. It was as if she was dead, at least in the memories of those who stayed behind. The bus left at 6:05. The seat next to her was empty. Elena sat still, holding her camera, her head leaning against the window. The road was wet with mist, blurred, just like her memory of home. During the 2.5-hour journey, Elena didn't sleep. She just looked out. But actually, She was looking inside. Why go? The question popped into her head, not for the first time. But today, instead of hiding from it, she answered silently. Because I don't want to stand outside anymore. Even if it's just once. Even if I have to leave right after. As she approached Eugene, Elena opened her phone. No messages. No missed calls. Just an email from the gallery with a poster design for the exhibition. Title in capital letters, Lensing Loneliness. By Elena Morris. Opening, December 15th. Portland Art House Gallery. Elena clicked on the poster. The photo she chose as the main image was a shot of a girl standing by a fence, looking through a classroom window, her eyes not sad. Just off-center. In the right corner was a quote from Elena. Sometimes, you're not pushed out. You're just never allowed in. Elena paused, not because of that quote, but because she suddenly realized. Maybe she was the one who had never entered. No one pushed her out. 10:02 a.m. Eugene. Small, old train station. No one picked her up. No need for anyone to pick her up. Elena dragged her suitcase, walking 2 blocks. The air was cold but pleasant. The smell of damp wood. The smell of baked goods from the old shop she used to visit with her father. She stopped at an intersection. Looking to her left was the road to her mother's house. She didn't turn in right away. Just stood there. Pulled out her phone. Composed a text message to Leo. I'm here. Don't know whether to knock or wait for another formal invitation. Leo replied after 3 minutes. I don't need an invitation. This time, I'm part of the picture. Just step into the frame. Elena took a deep breath. Dragged her suitcase across the street. 1 step. Then 2. Not fast. Not slow. But for the first time in 10 years, she chose to return for herself. Eugene, Oregon, 10:45 a.m. The house was tucked away in an old neighborhood, still painted pale blue, the wooden roof faded. The front door still had wind chimes hanging from it, the familiar sound that Elena had heard throughout her childhood, and, for the past 10 years, only in her memory. She stood in front of the door. Her hands were shaking slightly, not from the cold. Her mind was filled with imaginary words. What can I say? Are you home? Or just, yeah, come in. It's not a ceremony. She took a breath, reached up to ring the bell. Footsteps echoed from inside. The door opened. Evelyn. Her hair was more gray, her body thinner. But her eyes were still the same, alert, frank, and unpredictable. The two of them stood still for about 3 seconds. No hug, no smile, just looking at each other. You're early, she said. Her voice low and even, not blaming, not exactly happy. The only ticket left, Elena replied, simply. She stepped aside. Come in. It's as cold in here as when you left. Elena stepped inside. The house hadn't changed. Same furniture, same old carpet, fake plants, and framed pictures on the wall. She saw a picture of Sophie graduating, Leo in his dress, a picture of Mr. Evelyn smiling kindly. Still no picture of her. Would you like something to drink? Evelyn asked, already in the kitchen. Ginger tea. Elena asked. Yes. Mom always buys it because Sophie gets stomachaches. She answered, not looking. Elena nodded. She sat down on the sofa, placing her suitcase by her feet. The house was too quiet. And too many sounds. Silence. Unspoken sounds. Words that had been spoken and could not be taken back. Evelyn returned with her teacup and placed it on the table, facing Elena. You still taking pictures? Yes. I'm preparing for my solo exhibition. Elena replied. Oh. I read your name somewhere. I thought it was the same name. She replied, her voice unclear whether it was pride or surprise. Silence. Only the sound of the spoon hitting the glass. Elena looked at her mother. Not much different, but not the same either. She didn't know. The woman in front of her was her mother. Or the person who used to be her mother. "How many days will you stay?" she asked. "Probably until the wedding," Elena said. "If it's not convenient, I can call a motel nearby for you. You can sleep on the sofa," Elena said softly. Evelyn paused for a moment. Then she stood up and went straight to the inner room. No more words. Elena exhaled. She didn't expect a hug or an apology. Just to be seen as someone who was present. After a quiet lunch, Elena opened her suitcase and took out an old photo frame, the only one she had, taken by a friend when she was 25. She put it on the shelf, without asking permission. Just left it there, as a quiet way of saying, "I was here too." Eugene, Oregon, Sunday afternoon, 4:30 p.m. Elena was washing glasses in the kitchen when the door opened. Sophie's voice echoed from the living room. "Mom? I'm here. Need any help?" Short, neat, professional. As if talking to a patient or a coworker. Elena wiped her hands, exited the kitchen, met Sophie, standing in the middle of the living room, coat still on, tote bag in hand. Eyes locked with her sister's. The moment, silent. Tense as a string. No one said, "It's me," no one rushed to hug like in the movies. Just a slight nod. "You came quickly," Elena said first. "Yes." Finished the lunch shift and left. "Didn't want to get stuck in traffic," Sophie replied evenly. The two sisters were 3 steps apart, but it was like 2 different temperature zones. One cold, one quiet, not intersecting. Mrs. Evelyn came out of the room. "Oh, it's Sophie. Come in and eat some gingerbread that I just baked." "You baked?" Sophie was surprised, then glanced at Elena. "It's been a long time since you turned on the oven. The last time was probably when I got married." No one laughed. Elena didn't answer. They went into the kitchen. Mrs. Evelyn poured tea. Sophie sat across from Elena, but didn't look directly at her. Just ate the cake, drank the tea, then asked, "How long do you plan to stay?" "Until Leo's wedding," Elena replied. "And then back to Portland?" "Probably." "Still taking pictures?" "Still." "What about you?" "Morning shift at the hospital." "Yeah." "Ni just entered the cold season, winter sickness," Sophie replied. Her voice was not sour, not friendly. Just like updating information. Silence fell again. It wasn't that she didn't know what to say. It was that there was too much to say, but no one knew where to start. Elena took a deep breath. "Are you okay? Really?" Sophie looked at her sister. For the first time, her eyes had cracks. "Okay, why not? You're the one who can take care of yourself. Right?" The last sentence rang out, soft but sharp as a paper knife. Elena sat up straight. Her eyes still didn't leave her sister. "If you're tired, you can tell me. I didn't come here to make things difficult for you. I came here because Leo invited me, not because of you." Sophie interrupted. Elena paused. "You were the closest person to me, but I left without saying a word. Didn't call, didn't write, didn't ask if you needed me." Sophie continued, not angry, just hurt. Elena put down her teacup, touched her hands, and rubbed them together. "Because I thought you were strong enough. I didn't want to drag you into what Mom did to me. I thought leaving was the only way to not hurt anyone else. But I hurt you by leaving," Sophie said. "Not everyone needs me to save them. Some people just need me to stay." Silence. No one apologized. No one blamed. It's just, that's the first time Sophie has dared to say it in 10 years. She stood up. "I'm going to take a shower. I have an early shift tomorrow. You can stay if you want." Then she walked upstairs. Elena didn't stop her. She just looked. And for the first time in years, she heard a voice calling her name, Sophie. But it was too late. The stairs were too steep. The silence was too deep. She went back to the living room and sat down on the sofa. The photo frame with her was still there, next to the one with Sophie in her graduation gown. For the first time, there were both. Not in the same photo, but on the same shelf. Eugene, Monday morning, 9 a.m. Elena was washing the cups when she heard the door open. She looked up. Leo walked in, holding 2 cups of coffee and a bag of cookies. "Sis, I guess you haven't had breakfast yet." His voice was the same, bright, light, harmless as it had been all those years. Elena smiled. "Not much has changed. Still buying coffee every morning. Actually, I bought it to have an excuse to run away from home for 5 minutes." Leo winked and joked. "But today I have a better excuse, to pick you up." They sat at the dining table. The apple pie was still warm. The scent of cinnamon filled the room. The air was pleasant, as if nothing had ever happened. "You're still the same as before." Leo looked at his sister. Silent, but looking straight ahead. "Scary, because I have something to be afraid of?" Elena asked, her eyes not leaving her coffee cup. Leo paused, just for a moment, but enough for Elena to see. "I know you're still angry," Leo said, his voice low. "Because of that time." "No, I'm not angry," Elena interrupted. "I just wonder why, until now, you've never said, 'I'm sorry, sis.'" Silence. The sound of chewing cake was gone. There was only the ticking of the clock on the wall. Leo looked down at his hands. "Because I didn't know if I had the right to say sorry. Back then, I was just a kid. You said you'd take the blame for me. I let you. And then I just kept living like nothing had happened. You were the one who disappeared." Elena squeezed her fingers. "Did you know, because of that, Mom didn't see me for 3 months? That I left home because I thought I was a burden? I don't need you to regret it. Just admit it. That you know what you've lost to keep this family together." Leo swallowed. "You're right. I'm a coward. And I was afraid. If I brought it up again, everything would fall apart. So I kept quiet. But that silence was what broke it." Elena nodded slightly. "I came back here not to get anything back. I just didn't want to be the only one who knew what happened." Leo put his hand on his forehead. His eyes started to redden. "I'm getting married. But I don't know if it's worth it." "Sister, no one deserves it, Leo," Elena interrupted. "But if I know I've done wrong, then at least I deserve to fix it." A light breeze blew through the window. The sun shone on the dining table. Elena looked at her younger brother, the one who had been protected by the whole family, including her sister. And for the first time, she saw he was grown up, no longer hiding behind his innocent appearance. "I'll tell Mom," Leo said, "not so she can apologize to you, but so she knows what you did for me." "You should tell Sophie too," Elena said. Leo nodded, without hesitation. "And if you stay for the wedding, I want you to be the main photographer. Not because you're the photographer, but because I want my first wedding photo with you in it. Eugene, Oregon, Monday night, 6:30 p.m. The table is neatly set. The smell of stew and toast fills the house. The first family meal in over 10 years. There are 4 of us: Evelyn, Elena, Sophie, and Leo. Elena sits to the left of her mother. Sophie sits across from her. Leo is at the head of the table. The arrangement is unspoken, but all positions are implicitly understood. Elena is still the one sitting on the edge. "Have you finished your head nurse training, Sophie?" Evelyn asks, pouring lemonade. "I'm done, Mom. I'm waiting for an official appointment from the hospital." Sophie replies confidently. "That's great. I know you won't let me down." She nods. "And Leo is getting married and buying his own house. I'm relieved." She looks over the head of the table. "Jasmine contributes more to the house, Mom," Leo humbly says. "We are a family after all. The important thing is stability. I know how to take care of my 2 children," she said, smiling lightly. Elena took a spoonful of soup, silent. Not jealous, not sad, just familiar. so familiar that she felt like she was playing an old role in an old play. No one asked her how she was doing. No one mentioned the exhibition. No one asked if she was still taking pictures. She put down her spoon, took a sip of water, then smiled, the same gentle, forced smile as always. "It seems like everything is going well," she said, her voice as if she was commenting on the weather. "Yeah, thanks to Mom's patient teaching," Evelyn continued, not glancing at her. "Didn't Elena help Leo retake math in 11th grade?" Leo tried to interject. "Oh, it's a small matter. Now that I think about it, as long as you study hard, you'll be fine." Evelyn laughed, her voice casual. Elena put down her chopsticks. Not because she was angry, but because she no longer wanted to eat a meal where she was just a shadow in the corner of the table. "You know," Elena began, her voice even, as if she were reciting a note. "The first camera I had was my father's. He gave it to me after a picnic because he saw me always standing there taking pictures. At that time, my mother said, 'What's the use of taking pictures? Just study a proper subject for me.'" No one answered. Sophie looked down at her plate. Leo looked at his sister, breathing slowly. "My mother once said, 'You're too quiet, no one will need you in the future.' But actually, I kept quiet because I knew that speaking out would be the same." Elena looked up, looked at her mother, no blame, no tears. Just the truth. A truth that had been slowly flowing through the years, now being pronounced. "I'm fine now. It's just, I learned to love myself without you doing it for me." The kitchen was silent as if the electricity had been cut off. No sound of knives or spoons. No one spoke. The feeling was as heavy as the winter fog. Then Evelyn poured more water, still not looking up. "If you think so, then I'm sorry if I made you feel unloved." For the first time. An apology, not perfect, not emotional, but more than Elena had ever received in her entire childhood. "Thank you, Mom," she replied. "I just need you to acknowledge it, not understand." That night, Elena went to bed early. Before turning off the light, she turned on her phone, scrolling through old photos. She stopped at one photo, the dining table, tilted, one person missing. She turned on her camera, taking a selfie of the empty chair across from her. Then save it with the name ***. This time, I sat in the right place. Eugene, Oregon, Tuesday morning, 7:10 a.m. The family was still asleep. Elena woke up early. She poured herself a glass of water, walked around the living room, where all the memories were carefully arranged, except for those related to her. The largest photo hung in the middle of the room, in a walnut frame, with a small spotlight above it. The photo was taken in the garden. Dad was standing behind his two children, Leo and Sophie. Mom was sitting in a chair, her hand resting lightly on Leo's shoulder. A dog named Maple was nestled in Sophie's lap. A brilliant bougainvillea in the background. Elena wasn't there. Not because she wasn't there, but because she was the one taking the picture. She remembered that day. Dad called everyone out to the garden. The camera was on a tripod. He tried setting the timer. It didn't work. In the end, Elena was assigned to take the picture. She didn't complain. She didn't think much of it. She took the fifth photo, and then everyone was satisfied. Then someone said, "The photo is so beautiful. It should be enlarged." Elena looked at the photo for a long time, standing still like a statue. Not regretful, but regretful for herself when she thought she didn't deserve to be in it. "Sister." Leo's voice came from the stairs. Elena didn't turn around. She just asked, "Have you ever thought this family photo is a little strange?" Leo was silent for a moment, then stood next to her sister. "I know." Sister took it. "But we should have taken another one, with you. No one thought of that." Elena said, her voice not blaming. "I did," Leo whispered, "but I kept quiet. Because I felt, if Mom doesn't mention something, It's best not to mention it. Elena turned around, smiling sincerely for the first time. That's how silence becomes a tradition in our family. She walked to the bookshelf and took a small photo, a photo of her, her father, and Leo taken on a trip to the woods when she was 15. A rare photo of her, taken by a stranger. She dusted it off, then quietly placed it on the coffee table, next to the large photo frame. I don't need a photo to hang on the wall. Just a real photo, Elena said, then turned to the kitchen. That morning's breakfast was simple: scrambled eggs, bread, weak coffee. But when Evelyn passed by the living room, her eyes stopped on the photo Elena had just placed there. No one said anything, but she didn't pick it up. She didn't put it away. She just left it there. Eugene, Tuesday night, 7:42 p.m. Dinner passed quietly. Evelyn was a little tired and went to her room early. Leo went out to meet Jasmine. It was just Elena and Sophie, cleaning up like two strangers renting an Airbnb. The only sounds in the kitchen were the running water and the clinking of dishes. Sophie washed. Elena rinsed. No one initiated conversation. No one expected to have a real conversation. But maybe the kitchen was so quiet, it forced people to say what they were holding back. Today, Mom saw your picture on the table, Sophie said, not looking over. Yeah, Elena replied. Can I not ask, Mom? I just leave it there, like I mark my seat. Do you think Mom can see me? Sophie asked. Like, really see me? Elena pondered, then replied. I think Mom saw what she wanted to see. A good daughter, like you. A good son, like Leo. And I'm not the type she imagined. I thought you were like Mom, Sophie muttered. Cold. Aloof. Needless. Elena laughed softly, without mockery. It's not your fault. I used to practice that. Because if you're always the one who's forgotten, it's best not to expect anything. Sophie slowed down her washing. When you left, I felt like I was left behind. I know, Elena said. And I'm sorry. But if I stayed, I would drag you into a house full of things I couldn't stand. So, you think I could stand it? Sophie turned, looking straight at her sister. Elena stopped. The water was still running. But the question, it seemed to weigh heavily on the kitchen. No, Elena said. But you are stronger than I thought. You know how to be loved. I don't know how to be loved without sacrificing. Sophie turned away. The last bowl was rinsed. Elena turned off the faucet. The kitchen was filled with the faint sound of the extractor fan. I used to feel sorry, Sophie said. Because even though you were away from home, I still had to live in the image my mother had of me, the eldest. A role model. Not to be wrong. Not to cry. And most of all, not to be like you. Elena paused. I don't know. I thought leaving would free you. No. Leaving would leave me alone. Mom only looked at Leo. Dad is gone. And you, the only one who was told, do better than Elena. That statement, no blame. Just the truth. And Elena couldn't deny it. She stepped closer. For the first time in over a decade, she touched Sophie's shoulder. I can't go back in time. But if you need me, I'll be here. Sophie didn't cry, but she nodded. So this time, can I stay until after the wedding? Elena nodded. Stay. No more leaving early. No more standing out of the frame. The two sisters stood there, by the sink, the yellow light softly illuminating Elena's bleached hair and Sophie's dark brown eyes. No need to hug. No need to cry. Just stand together. Tell the truth. Eugene, Wednesday evening, 8:20 p.m. The house was bathed in soft yellow light. Elena was sitting at the small wooden table in the living room, adjusting some photos she had taken in the garden. There was a soft knock on the door. Leo poked his head in, holding an old envelope, faded paper, gold trim, handwritten in blue ink. Elena, Open when you're ready. Elena looked up. What is it? Leo stepped in, placing the envelope on the table. His eyes were averted. I found it in Dad's old box. A few years ago. But I didn't know when to give it to you. Because you weren't back then. Elena looked at the writing. Her father's handwriting. The slanted, neat handwriting. It always made her feel safe. He wrote it to you. She asked quietly, not looking at Leo. Yes, he must have written it before he died. Maybe he knew he wouldn't have the chance to say it directly. Elena picked up the envelope. Her hands were shaking slightly, not because she was afraid, but because she didn't expect there to be a word she hadn't heard before. Read it. I'll go to the kitchen to make tea, Leo said, then left the room as quietly as he had entered. Elena opened the letter. A piece of paper folded into 3, the handwriting still even. Not long, but enough to make her throat close up from the first line. Elena, if you read this letter, I am probably no longer here. And you are probably wondering, why did I write to you alone? Without letting everyone know? Because I know you're the only one who does not demand to be understood, but it still hurts when misunderstood. I see you, Elena. Since you were 5 years old. Holding a pencil to draw your mother. When you were 9 years old, hiding behind a camera. When you were 13 years old, being punished because Leo broke a vase and you did not justify it. I wanted to speak up many times, but I kept quiet. Because I was a coward. Because I was afraid your mother would be angry. Because I thought you were strong enough. But no one should be forced to be strong to be loved. If you left home after I died, I understand. And if you ever thought no one chose you, remember, I chose. I chose to believe in you, to understand you, and I know that one day you will step into your own picture. No one invited you. No need to be called by name. If you are holding a camera, capturing the world, remember, even when no one sees you, you are always there. And I see you. Always. Love you. Unconditionally. Dad. Elena folded the paper. Tears fell. Not in torrents. Just falling at the right moment. Elena nodded. I think I finally saw myself in a photo. I didn't need to be there. I just needed someone to see me. That night, Elena slept soundly for the first time in years. No dreams. No need. Eugene, Saturday. Mild sunshine, 18 degrees Celsius. Location, a small wedding garden by the river, full of wild daisies and late autumn gold. Elena arrived early. Camera ready. Lens carefully cleaned. She chose a simple navy dress, her hair in a low bun, a small sprig of lavender, Jasmine's favorite color. Everyone arrived one by one. Mrs. Evelyn wore a dark blue dress. Sophie's hair was lightly tied up. Sophie smiled more genuinely than usual. Leo stood behind the wooden door, adjusting his tie, his hands shaking slightly. Are you sure you don't want to take a few photos together? Leo walked over and asked quietly. Yes, Elena replied. Leo smiled. Good, because this time you have to be in the album. The ceremony was quiet. No pomp. No cliches. Just promises, a few jokes, real laughter, and an atmosphere that made anyone who had ever been lost feel they were in the right place. Elena captured every moment. Jasmine's eyes on Leo. Evelyn laughed when Leo accidentally dropped the ring. Sophie held a little girl, her best friend's child, as if she had just stepped into a new role. Then came the family photo session. Everyone turned to the camera. Evelyn stood between her 2 children. Jasmine linked arms with Leo. Sophie stood next to the bride, smiling brightly. Elena held the camera. Ready, she asked, one hand on the shutter. Wait, Leo said. He stepped closer, handed the camera to a mutual friend. Let me take the picture. Elena, get in place. The lawn was silent for a few seconds. Elena did the same. But this time, she didn't refuse. No forced smile, No excuses. She stepped forward, standing next to Sophie. Sophie put her arm around her, lightly, as if there had never been a gap. Evelyn turned to look, said nothing, but nodded very slightly. Okay, smile. The photographer said loudly. Crack. A picture. No father. But Elena, no longer standing outside. Not the one taking the picture, but part of the family. The afternoon ended with a small party. Elena was thanked by Jasmine for the beautiful pictures. Sophie invited her to stay a few more days. And Evelyn, when she thought no one could hear, whispered, "Thank you for coming, Elena." That night, Elena went home, turned on the camera, downloaded the pictures. Among the hundreds of pictures, there was one. She stood among the people, smiling slightly, her eyes no longer keeping their distance. She named the file, Here, without being invited. Portland, 2 weeks after the wedding. Early morning, the air was chilly. Elena's first exhibition, Frames I Never Stepped Into, officially opened. The art house gallery was lit up at 7 a.m. She arrived early, like every morning before she went shooting. Not to edit anything, but to stand alone, among the memories she had only dared to keep on her personal hard drive. White space. Black and white photos. The first photo, a girl standing outside the schoolyard. The middle photo of the exhibition, a child asleep at a birthday party table. The last photo, a woman on the train, holding a camera, looking into the distance. All of it was Elena. Not head-on, not portrait. Just the parts she thought no one wanted to see. 9 a.m., people started arriving. Friends in the photography world. Unfamiliar viewers. Sophie, Leo, Jasmine, even Evelyn. She wore a gray sweater, holding a bunch of lavender. She said nothing, but her eyes lingered on each frame. For a long time. Do you recognize any of them? Elena stepped forward. Yes, this one was in our backyard when I was 11. My dad just redid the bougainvillea trellis. She replied, touching the edge of the frame. Elena nodded. I took a picture of you hanging a scarf, but only the background. They were both silent. No need to explain. No need to apologize. Just stand in the same frame of time. Back corner of the room, the largest photo, covered with a white scarf. Caption. The first frame I truly stepped into, the first photo I truly stepped into. At 10 a.m., Elena pulled the cloth down herself. The photo appeared. The photo taken at Leo's wedding. She stood next to Sophie, to Evelyn's left, holding the off-camera. No shooting. No avoiding. Just smile. Softly. Enough. Everyone applauded. Elena bowed her head in thanks. Nothing more. After years of living with images, she finally understood. Presence does not need to be described. Just dare to step into it. 11:37 a.m. Elena stood alone in front of that photo. A girl of about 12 years old approached, pulling her mother's hand. Mom, I like that girl. She looks like she has just found her place in a comic book. Elena laughed. Not embarrassed. Just grateful. And sometimes, we have to live almost our whole lives to dare to step into the photo that has been waiting for us since childhood. At the end of the exhibition, she received a message from Sophie. I'm planning to print the photo from the wedding and hang it in my house. What do you think? Elena replied, Good. As long as you're not the one who presses the button. Portland, a week after the exhibition. Elena sat in her small kitchen, the sunlight streaming through the glass windows. On the table was a cup of tea, a small framed photo, a picture of her standing with Sophie and Leo, taken at their wedding. On the other corner of the table was a blank sheet of paper. Not photo paper, not an exhibition receipt, but a handwritten letter. The first time she had written to her mother, not a text, not an email, not an interrupted conversation. Evelyn did not ask for an apology. Elena did not write to apologize. She wrote, so that she would not keep her word. Mom, maybe you will be surprised when you receive this letter. Because from childhood to adulthood, I have been a person who does not talk much. I do not tell when I am tired, do not complain when I am hurt. You used to say that I am cold, but actually, I just do not know if my words are worth listening to. I used to try very hard to be seen by you. Not by grades, but by living a kind life. But I do not blame you for looking past me. Everyone loves in their own way, and sometimes that way is not suitable for me. I used to be sad because of that. But not now, because I understand that. Not all loves are enough to make us grow up. Some are just enough for us to practice letting go and choose to love ourselves. Mom is a strong person. I used to think that you did not need anyone. Now I know maybe you were never taught to be gentle. And Mom, I forgive you for that. Not because you deserve it, but because I deserve to be free to. The wedding photo. Thank you for not taking it down. I don't need you to hang my photo in the living room. Just, I'm still part of the family. Not perfect. Not like anyone else. But real. I wish you well. I hope you learn how to hug someone, without a reason. If one day you want to try it, I will still stand still to welcome you. Elena. She folded the letter. Put it in an envelope. Write a short address to Evelyn M., the first person to call me a daughter. Open mailbox with raised flag. Elena stamped it. Walked out of the apartment. Took the letter to the post office near her house. On the way back, her heart felt light. Not exactly happy, not sad, but empty enough to start over. She knew her mother might not reply. But for the first time in her life, Elena didn't need a response. Because for the first time, she wrote a letter not to be loved, but to see that she loved enough. Portland, a morning in early May. 7:17 a.m. Elena was making coffee. The phone rang. A text from Sophie with only 3 things. Keycap 1, a picture of the baby, red, wrapped in a pink and white striped blanket. Keycap 2, a line of text. My daughter, 6:03 a.m. 7 pounds. Eyes just like yours. Keycap 3, another text, 10 seconds later. Do you want to be her godmother? Elena stood still. The coffee dripped, but all the noise receded. Her hands shook slightly, not because of fear, but because her heart had just opened a new chamber. She texted back, sure, if you trust me. Sophie replied almost immediately, not if. I always do. It just took me so long to admit it. That afternoon, Elena took the bus to Eugene. No camera. No need to take any pictures. She went to see, with her eyes, with her heart, and with her undisguised presence. 3rd floor ward, maternity ward. Sophie was lying on her side, her hair loose, her face pale but softly radiant. The baby lay quietly in the crib beside her, her tiny fingers slightly stretched. Elena walked in. Sophie looked up, without saying anything. You're here, Elena said, sitting down by the bed. I knew you would come, Sophie said. A confidence that wasn't dramatic, not sentimental, just clear. What's her name? Elena asked, her hand resting lightly on the crib. Clara, Sophie said. It's Latin for clear. I want her to grow up not to be blurred, like you were. Elena looked up at her sister. For the first time, she saw Sophie not as a little sister, but as a woman who had truly grown up. With her own gentleness. Clara will have many beautiful pictures. Elena smiled. But I hope she will know that she doesn't need to be beautiful to be loved. Sophie said. And she will know that she is loved, even if she is not the best. The little girl blinked, her chubby face moving slightly. Elena leaned down and kissed her on the forehead. A kiss without expectations. No burden of doing something right. Just a beginning without strings attached. I will stay for a few days, Elena said. Stay as long as you want. Sophie smiled. There is always room for you in my house. And this time, you don't have to stand outside. Eugene, An early summer afternoon. 3:14 p.m. Clara is 2 weeks old. Sleeps a lot. Feeds well, and, as Leo puts it, looks at the camera like a pro. Elena sits in the living room, light streaming in from the west window. Clara lies on a white blanket. Elena doesn't pose. No flash. Just shoots as if she's ready to be seen, in the real thing. Split. First shot. No one holding her. No decorations. Just Clara. Sleeping and peaceful. Sophie stands behind her. Arms crossed. Are you going to name the album? Elena looks up. Yes, The Children Who Were Seen. Sophie smiles. That's a good name. I want Clara to grow up with something I didn't have, Elena says, still looking at the camera. A memory to keep, not for show, but to remember that I was there in the first place. Split. Second shot. Clara opened her eyes. Milky gray eyes, still dim but clinging to the light. Elena whispered, "Welcome to the world, Clara. Here, you don't have to scream to see. Just open your eyes." Sophie walked over, placing her hand on Elena's shoulder. "The first time I saw, you were really here." Elena nodded, still holding the camera. "The first time, I didn't take a picture to hide, but to keep." The afternoon passed peacefully. The last photo of the shoot was Clara holding Elena's finger, the finger that had held the lens to hide herself. Now, she held a small life with all she had learned, after a lifetime of not wanting to hold hands. That night, Elena chose 3 pictures to test develop. She stuck one on Sophie's refrigerator, next to Leo's wedding photo. Sophie didn't take it down. No one asked. Elena opened her laptop and created a new folder. Folder name: 5 folder, Clara, 2025 uncropped photos. Eugene, a late summer afternoon, 3 years later. Sophie's backyard was filled with golden sunlight. Clara, 3 years old, with slightly curly hair, was wearing a wooden toy camera, pale yellow, with a shoulder strap, a rotating lens, and a shutter button that made a soft click when pressed. Elena sat on the couch, taking pictures of Clara with a real camera. She didn't intervene. She didn't give any instructions. She just waited for Clara to take a shot of her mother, then ran away like the wind. Sophie brought out orange juice and leaned against the door frame. She loves that camera. She hugs it every night when she sleeps. Elena smiled. When I was her age, I also took pictures of the stray cats in the backyard. Sophie looked at Clara, who was crouching behind the potted plant, secretly taking a picture of a butterfly perched on the edge of a leaf, and said softly, "It looks like you when you were little." Elena paused, not because she was surprised, but because, for the first time, she had heard that from someone else, not in the form of a comparison or a criticism. "Do you remember me when I was little?" she asked, half jokingly. Sophie nodded, her eyes never leaving Clara. "You were always on tiptoe. Never pushed, never asked. You were like someone who picked up what others had dropped, and no one ever thanked you." Elena put down the camera, breathing lightly. "Maybe because I know what it feels like to be dropped, so I always want to pick something up for someone." Clara ran back, holding up the toy camera. "Auntie L, I took a picture of the bee. It didn't sting me." Elena bent down, patting Clara's head, "Because I didn't scare it." Clara nodded, then asked, "Are you afraid, Aunt L?" "Afraid of what?" Elena asked back. "Afraid of not being seen." Elena looked straight into those big round eyes, eyes that did not know the silent gaps of adults. And she replied, slowly, as if answering the child in herself, "I used to be afraid, but not anymore. Because I know, as long as I don't hide it, the world will see it." Sophie was silent. Then, as if by accident, she took out her phone to take a picture of that moment. Clara holding the camera, Elena sitting next to her, the sunlight shining back. That night, Sophie sent the photo to Elena with a line. "Don't delete this one. Because this time, I didn't take the photo. It's the person who saw it. Portland, an early autumn afternoon. A room on the second floor of the Portland Youth Hub. White walls, large windows, natural light all over. Inside, there are 6 students, aged 13 to 17, sitting in a circle. On the table are 6 old cameras that Elena bought, cleaned carefully, with memory cards installed and full batteries. She stands at the front of the class, smiling. Hello, everyone. This class is not to teach you to become famous photographers. This class is to help you see yourself before someone tells you who you should be. A boy raises his hand. Are you an artist? Elena smiles. I am someone who used to not dare to appear in my own family photo. Now, I know I can help others not fall into that feeling. In the first class, Elena did not talk about aperture or shutter speed. She asked each student to take a picture without anyone seeing their face, but still showing their emotions. A girl named Gia took a picture of her mother's hands chopping onions. A boy named Evan took a picture of his feet standing on a soccer field, alone. Another girl, named Nevaeh, timidly showed a picture of a torn pillow with the caption, "This was from the old foster home." I wasn't allowed to take it home, so I took a picture to remember. Elena looked at the picture, not commenting on the technique. Just nodded. I learned how to see what others don't see. After class, Nevaeh approached and asked softly, "Teacher, why is the class called How to Step into Your Own Frame?" Elena looked at her, then replied, "Because I've taken thousands of pictures. But it took a long time for one, where I was actually in it. I don't want you to spend years like I did." After 6 weeks, the class ended with a small exhibition, right in the main hall. No one was required to print photos, but everyone brought at least one. Even Nevaeh. She printed one. A broken mirror, reflecting her eyes, straight, determined. Under the photo was a handwritten caption, "I used to see myself as crooked, but now I adjust the lens myself." Elena stood watching the children. Her heart lightened. Not because she was proud, but because she knew for sure what she had gone through was valuable. Not to glorify the injury, but to not hide the recovery. That evening, Sophie texted. Clara asked, "Does Auntie Elle teach classes for 5-year-olds?" Elena smiled and replied, "No. But if she wants to take pictures, I'll be the one to keep the album." Eugene, an early winter afternoon, the year Clara turned 5. The wind rustles through Sophie's backyard. The birthday party is simple, a few close friends, some cake. Balloons tied with pale purple bows, Clara's favorite color. Elena sits on a wooden bench under a raisin arbor, wearing a pale gray cardigan, a cup of tea in her hand. Smiling as Clara runs around with a reel camera. "Whose is that?" Elena asks when Clara stops, panting. "It's mine." Mom says I'm old enough to keep a good one if I don't drop it. Clara grins. "And who are you taking a picture of?" Elena tilts her head. Clara lifts her face, her finger on the shutter button. Auntie Elle. But don't be so serious. Smile. Elena laughs. A small, genuine laugh. No defense. No dodge. Click. The shutter sounds. No angle. No exposure. Just a picture Clara takes, in the moment Elena lets go of all her roles. That evening, Sophie emailed Elena the photo. A short note. Not perfect, but enough for Clara to say, "I want to grow up to be like Aunt Elle, knowing how to smile when no one asks me to." Elena looked at the photo. Here she was, her hair a little messy, her smile crooked, her eyes slightly squinted from the sun. But it was the first photo she didn't have to put down to be in. She opened the Clara 2025 folder on her computer, created a new subfolder. File folder from now on. Put the photo in there. No editing. No cropping. No removing the brightness. It doesn't have to be perfect to be remembered. Just being there. Elena, personal note below photo.